Top HFY Stories, Bug Infestation. The asteroid mining colony of Kalros, 7 was known for its resilience. Nestled deep within the Kuiper belt, the colony had survived meteor storms, radiation leaks, and even a Rogai uprising. Humanity had earned its place on this inhospitable rock, carving out life where none should exist, but nothing could prepare the colony for the swarm. It started with a routine or shipment. The cargo bay sensors detected no anomalies, but the miners unloading the crates swore they heard faint clicking noises. Dismissing it as the groan of old equipment, the workers shrugged it off and returned to their duties. By the time anyone realized the truth, it was too late. The bugs, alien creatures resembling a nightmarish fusion of centipede and scorpion, emerged in droves. They swarmed through air ducts, crawled along walls, and overwhelmed the colony's outer sectors within hours. Their carapaces reflected the dim emergency lights, and their mandibles snapped with precision. They weren't mindless pests, they had a strategy. They struck at power generators, severed communication lines, and sabotaged oxygen recyclers. Commander Elena Voss convened the colony's emergency council in the central hub. "We're cut off from Earth, and our weapons can barely dent their exoskeletons. We need a plan, or Kalros, 7 is lost." Dr. Rajesh Patel, the colony's biologist, stepped forward. "These creatures are eusocial. They operate like an insect hive with a queen controlling the swarm. If we can locate and neutralize the queen, we might disrupt their coordination." "Neutralize?" scoffed Chief Engineer Marcus Lee. "We can't even crack their shells. What are we supposed to do? Talk them into surrender?" Elena silenced the room with a sharp glare. "If these bugs can adapt, so can we. Rajesh, you and your team study them. Marcus, retrofit our mining lasers into weapons. Everyone else, fortify the hub. We hold the line here." Over the next 48 hours, humanity's ingenuity went to work. The biologists discovered that the bugs' carapaces had a weak spot near the joints, and the engineers modified the mining lasers for precise strikes. The colonists fought back, driving the swarm out of the central hub, but the queen still eluded them. The breakthrough came when a scout team found a massive chamber deep in the asteroid's crust. It was the hive, pulsating with alien energy. At the center stood the queen, a monstrous creature 5 times the size of her drones, encased in a translucent exoskeleton that glowed faintly green. Elena led the assault herself, armed with a prototype plasma cutter. The colonists fought with everything they had, using their intimate knowledge of the asteroid's tunnels to outmaneuver the swarm. Explosives collapsed side passages, lasers melted exoskeletons, and determination burned brighter than the void outside. When Elena finally stood before the queen, she activated the plasma cutter and plunged it into the creature's glowing thorax. The queen let out an ear-splitting screech before collapsing in a heap. The drones around her spasmed and fell lifeless, their hive mind severed. The victory came at a cost. Half the colony's population had been lost, and much of the infrastructure lay in ruins. But as the survivors gathered in the central hub, Elena addressed them with a tired but determined smile. "We came to Kalros, 7 to prove that humanity could thrive anywhere. Today, we showed the universe that we're not just survivors, we're fighters, and no matter what comes next, humanity will endure." Kalros, 7 would rebuild, stronger than before. The story of their victory spread across human colonies, a tale of resilience and defiance. It became one of the most celebrated HFY stories in history, a testament to humanity's indomitable spirit in the face of a bug infestation. Top HFY Stories, Bug Infestation, Part 2. Rebuilding Kalros, 7 was a monumental task. The colonists salvaged what they could from the wreckage, converting destroyed mining rigs and broken habitats into makeshift living quarters. Every survivor contributed, from engineers welding new support beams to children sorting debris for usable materials. The bugs were gone, but their presence lingered in the minds of those who had lived through the attack. Then, a new discovery changed everything. Dr. Rajesh Patel, now hailed as a hero for his role in identifying the swarm's weaknesses, was studying samples taken from the queen's remains. What he found was both shocking and promising. The queen's genetic structure contained traces of a bioorganic material capable of synthesizing resources at an astonishing rate. The bugs hadn't just been mindlessly destroying, they were consuming and repurposing materials to expand their hive. "We've been looking at them as pests," Rajesh said during a council meeting, "but this substance, let's call it chimerium, could revolutionize our technology. Imagine self-repairing ships, renewable resources, or even terraforming tools. This could be humanity's next leap forward." Commander Voss was skeptical. "And what happens if we trigger another swarm? Or worse, create one ourselves?" "We'll take precautions," Rajesh assured, "but the potential benefits outweigh the risks. If we're going to survive long-term out here, we need every advantage we can get." After much debate, the council approved a controlled experiment. Rajesh and his team worked tirelessly to isolate and test the chimerium. blending it with human-made alloys and organic matter. The results were beyond anyone's expectations. Damaged mining bots rebuilt themselves overnight. Crops grown in chimerium-enhanced soil flourished in record time. Even oxygen recyclers became more efficient, allowing the colony to expand its habitable zones. But progress came at a cost. Deep within the asteroid, something stirred, unbeknownst to the colonists. A fragment of the Queen's hive mind had survived. The remnants of her consciousness latched onto the chimerium-infused materials, using them to regenerate. Slowly, a new swarm began to form, one smarter, stronger, and more cunning than its predecessor. The first signs were subtle: strange noises in the ventilation shafts, tools disappearing from workstations, and faint scratches along the walls. Then came the attacks. Workers in the outer sectors reported seeing flashes of movement, only to vanish before they could be identified. One by one, people began to disappear. This time, the colony was prepared. Patrols armed with the upgraded mining lasers swept the tunnels, and Rajesh's team deployed chimerium-based drones to scout for threats. But the new swarm was elusive, striking from shadows and retreating before anyone could retaliate. Elena called an emergency council meeting. "We've got to assume this swarm has learned from the last one. They know our tactics, our weaknesses. If we're going to survive, we need to take the fight to them before they overwhelm us." Rajesh proposed a daring plan. Using the chimerium-enhanced technology, they could create a decoy queen, a lure to draw the swarm into a single location. Once the swarm was concentrated, they would detonate a high-yield charge, collapsing the tunnels and eliminating the threat for good. It was a risky gambit. The colony had limited resources, and if the plan failed, they might not have the strength to mount another defense. But with no better options, they set to work. Over the next week, the decoy queen was constructed, a towering amalgamation of chimerium and human ingenuity, broadcasting signals designed to mimic the original queen's pheromones. The colonists fortified the central hub, setting traps and positioning themselves for a final stand. When the swarm came, it was like nothing they had ever seen. These bugs moved in perfect unison, their carapaces reinforced with chimerium. They tore through the outer defenses, but the colonists held their ground, funneling the swarm toward the decoy queen. As the last of the swarm reached the decoy, Elena gave the order. The charge detonated, shaking the asteroid to its core. The tunnels collapsed, burying the swarm and cutting off their escape. When the dust settled, Kalros 7 was silent once more. The colonists emerged from the rubble, battered but victorious. Humanity had faced the swarm's evolution, and won. This time, there would be no rebuilding for the bugs, but for humanity, it was a new beginning. The lessons learned from the swarm would pave the way for technological and biological advances that could secure humanity's place among the stars. Kalros 7 became a legend, not just for its survival but for its triumph over an evolving enemy. It was humanity's ultimate HFY story, a testament to ingenuity, unity, and the unyielding will to fight for a future. ####Top HFY Stories, Bug Infestation, Part 3. Kalros 7 had weathered the storm. The colony had survived the first wave, and even though they had to endure a second brutal assault, they emerged stronger. The collapse of the Queen's hive, coupled with the destruction of the new, chimerium-infused swarm, should have brought an end to the threat, but in the depths of space, there were always more unknowns, and sometimes, silence was the most dangerous enemy of all. A year had passed since the second swarm's defeat. Life on Kalros 7 was slowly returning to normal, and the colony's once fragile infrastructure was now a testament to human ingenuity. The chimerium-enhanced technologies had become integral to their operations. Mining bots worked autonomously. The new terraforming tools were starting to change the surface of the asteroid, and food production was on the rise. It seemed as though the colony had finally turned the corner. But then, a distress signal came in from one of the outer mining stations. A team had uncovered an ancient ruin buried deep beneath the asteroid's surface, an alien structure that had been there long before humanity's arrival. The message was brief: "Something's not right. There's something down here. It's alive." Commander Elena Voss immediately dispatched a reconnaissance team, including Dr. Rajesh Patel. The team was briefed, and they knew they had to approach with caution. After all, the first encounter with the swarm had taught them that these creatures were no mere pests. They were predators, and now they had to deal with the remnants of an ancient alien force that may have created or been wiped out by these same bugs. When they arrived at the site, the atmosphere was tense. The alien ruin, hidden in the asteroid's core, was vast, sprawling tunnels, deep chambers, and strange symbols covered the walls. In the center of it all lay a massive, organic structure that pulsed with a soft, bioluminescent glow. It resembled the nests of the bugs, but the architecture was far more advanced. As the team navigated deeper into the ruin, they discovered a horrifying truth. The alien structure wasn't just a hive, it was a laboratory, and it had been abandoned. Rajesh's team found preserved samples of the alien species, elongated, biomechanical beings that seemed to be in a state of suspended animation. The more they uncovered, the more they realized that these beings had been experimenting with the same chimerium-based technology that had fueled the bug infestation. This wasn't just an alien experiment, Rajesh said, his voice trembling. These creatures, they created the bugs, or at least, they experimented with their creation, the chimerium. It was meant to evolve, to adapt, to conquer, but something went wrong. The bugs, they turned on their creators. The team dug further, uncovering records in an alien language that seemed to confirm Rajesh's hypothesis. The alien species had sought to harness the power of the chimerium to create a self-sustaining ecosystem, an ecosystem of perfect, unstoppable creatures, but their creation had grown too powerful, too intelligent, and in their hunger for expansion, the swarm had consumed everything in their path, including their creators. As the realization set in, the ground beneath their feet trembled. Something was waking. The colony had disturbed a dormant part of the ruin, something that had been preserved, sealed away for centuries. The chimerium-enhanced bugs had not been the first to face extinction. The beings who had created them had done so because they were desperate to survive against the bugs they had unleashed. But now, it seemed that the real threat had awoken once more. The chamber was no longer silent. The faint hum of machinery filled the air as massive alien doors began to open. Inside, a vast vault of chimerium was stored, glowing with an unnatural intensity. As the doors opened fully, the team realized what was inside, not just a new swarm, but a perfected version of the chimerium-enhanced creatures, larger, faster, more intelligent, and capable of integrating chimerium into their own bodies at will. The new swarm, far more advanced than the previous ones, immediately recognized the human presence. It wasn't just mindless aggression anymore. These creatures, these engineered, hyper-evolved beings, were aware of the humans, aware of their technology, and aware of their weaknesses. "We have to leave, now," Elena ordered, her voice steely. The retreat was chaotic. The team fought their way back to the surface, using everything they had, mining lasers, chimerium-enhanced tools, and explosives to slow down the swarm. But there were too many. The chimerium had given them power beyond what humanity had ever faced. The bugs, if that was still what they were, seemed unstoppable. Back at the central hub, Elena issued a full-scale alert. The colony's resources were stretched thin, and they needed every available person to defend the hub. Rajesh, who had now become the colony's foremost expert on chimerium, came up with a desperate plan. "If we can overload the chimerium core in the ruins, we might be able to cause a chain reaction," he said, "but it's going to be risky. If we don't time it perfectly, we could destroy everything." Elena didn't hesitate. "Then we make sure we do." The final battle was a clash of desperation and survival. The swarm reached the central hub, and the colonists fought with everything they had. Mining rigs were turned into makeshift barricades. Chimerium-based drones became the front line, and every worker, every engineer, every biologist fought with determination. They were not just fighting for their lives, but for the future of humanity. As the swarm breached the hub, Elena and Rajesh made their way to the ruins' core. The final objective. They had one chance, one shot to end it all. With seconds to spare, Rajesh activated the overload sequence. The core erupted in a brilliant flash, sending shockwaves through the asteroid and obliterating the chimerium source. The explosion wiped out the swarm in one final, violent pulse. The ruins crumbled, and the bugs, no matter how advanced they had become, were reduced to nothing. When the dust settled, Kalros 7 stood once again, but this time, there was no sense of victory, only the quiet realization that humanity had fought, not just for survival, but for its future. "We won't stop," Elena said, looking at the remains of the battle. "We've faced the worst, and we've beaten it. This is just the beginning."